UFC Mexico was disappointing as expected. We've got a few fights to go through here. We're recapping all of my picks to the ones I can remember, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the fights and some of the things that I noticed, and we'll talk about a couple of possible fights, a little bit of matchmaking, a little bit of opinions, thoughts, queries, rada, and just overall, my experience of the card. So we're going to start from the bottom. We're going to work our way up. We're kicking it off. Maquel Medeiros gets the win over Austin Hubbard. I'm a little bit cut up about this one. Austin Hubbard was one of my hardest locks. He was my hardest pick. I didn't even have to think about it. Okay, and split decision too. He got close. If Austin Hubbard's losing, it's these gritty split decisions. It's these hard to score split decisions because Austin Hubbard's always going to go out there and try and take your head off. So, unfortunate we didn't get Austin Hubbard, but a split decision, that's almost a victory in my mind. So, I'm not going to dwell on this one as I didn't give it that much time in the picks video. I'm not going to dwell on it too much in the recap. This was probably one of the better fights of the night. Not necessarily a fight, but we got a good finish. Jamal Emes versus Gabriel Miranda. Sorry. It's a cool fight. This was a really bit of a bounce back win for Jamal Emes, man. Putting it all together and landing a nice big shot down the middle, and he was throwing that combo all night. Gabriel Miranda had no answer for it, and Jamal Emes made him pay in the biggest way. Coming in round 1 too. Not often you see these lighter weight classes putting it up on the big rounds and in the early rounds. So shout out Jamal Emes. Really nice knockout. Float around, find another early prelim fight, I guess. But cool fight. Obviously, we're 2 picks down now. Nothing's happening. But first win of the night, Rafa Garcia. I knew Rafa Garcia would come out there with that that short, stocky bob and weave style. Sort of press the pace and overall just overwhelm Sean Strickland from Wish. So, and he did. He got out there and he pressed the pace. It was a bit of a sloppy fight. I don't see Rafa Garcia fighting for a belt anytime soon, but, if these Mexican cards need a preliminary fighter to put up a nice, stocky walk them down, sloppy takedown fight, then Rafa Garcia is their man. Or if they need to put over the next big power puncher, and they need someone to walk into his shots. So, yeah, shout out Rafa Garcia. This was an interesting fight, I will admit. It was probably the first decent watch of the night, first decent, rock'em sock'em, other than the Austin Hubbard fight. So, next one up. I tend to just fly by these. I tend to just give these a little bit of crap. These women's fights, especially these strawweight women fights, because you're just going to see a pretty meh performance out of both women. But Lupe Godinez, man, Lupe Godinez, and I will be doing a 2-hour deep dive on the boxing channel. Okay, this was insane. In that third round was actually a really good, exciting round. It was rock'em sock'em. They were just sort of head on the center line, and they were just throwing straights down the middle. There was no sending, there was no uppercuts, there was no hooks, it was just all sloppy looping shots, so, and straight hands. But no, this was a good fight. This is a really good women's fight. Both women were beaten and bloodied, and made for honestly a really good fight. And Lupe Godinez obviously retains that number 11 ranking, but you got to give it to Julia Pilastri, sorry, she went in there and she fought, but wasn't enough in the end. Lupe Godinez gets the UD, so congratulations, Lupe. This was a really interesting fight. Rounds 1, Christian Rodriguez, Costa. This is an interesting fight. I like this one a lot. Okay, I think it could have been up there in a main card spot. Because Christian Rodriguez, he's taking a lot of O's. He's an interesting fighter. He's known to have that bit of dog in him. And then Costa is obviously gaining a little bit of traction right now, and he could be looking at a couple bigger fights in the near future. But I'll admit the first round really didn't have me all that engaged. It was a bit of a Mario Bautista performance out of Christian Rodriguez. A lot of just pinning him up against the cage, and then in reverse, and Costa would have the cage, and It was just a bit of back and forth like that. A couple little good, pit-pat, big right hands and stuff like that. A couple good strikes were thrown, but round 2 was where it elevated. It started to look a bit stinky, and Christian Rodriguez was going to just, set the narrative of the fight that it was going to be a very Mario Batista-esque win, which is, to me, Christian Rodriguez, that's kind of his fight style. Okay, the Mario Batista, the cage pushing, cage clinching, the odd foot sweep. Costa, man, lands a big knee on the ground, follows up with some uppercut, completely steals the round. And then the third round was, in my opinion, a really hard one to score because a lot of times there, Christian Rodriguez was getting him down and holding him up against the cage still. But then they'd open up and both of them would just throw flurries. And that was really hard to score. But, yeah, I picked Costa. And he didn't look the best out there. He was just getting taken down with them foot sweeps, left, right, and center. DC was about to go in there and show him how it was done. But, what are you going to do? It was a cool fight nonetheless. I enjoyed it. It was one of them sort of sloppy fights where you kind of got to find the diamond in the rough. Metaphorically speaking. I regret what I did here. I should have picked the Dana White Contender Series debutant. Instead, I picked Jose. And I swear this was Joel. When we did the breakdown. I'm not sure. But anyway, Jose Daniel Medina. Medina's got a chin, I'll give him that. He was taking some big just cracking shots. This is middleweight Francis Ngannou, may I also add. Now that we're familiar with he's Cameroonian, no one knew that going into this. We know that he's a middleweight Francis Ngannou. Walks like Francis, he's jacked like Francis, and he throws bombs like Francis. And he comes up with the big knockout in round 1. Comes out with that big rock'em sock'em knockout. And he was landing big shots, and they sounded like getting a stick and just bashing it against a stone or something. Like, that's what the punches were sounding like. They were brutal, man. But made a terrible pick in Medina. He looked flabby. He did not look prepared to fight this giant, terrifying Cameroonian. And, he just kind of was getting hit multiple times in the chin and was just hitting these ones. Like, come on, my boy. This is what happens to fighters when I bet on them. He just walked forward and just got cracked. The biggest layup. It was a big layup, I'll admit. But I don't know why I picked him. I seen a bit of craftiness in him, and I should have. So, another loss. This one was a bit of a wild one, okay? And there's a huge narrative shift here. Ronaldo Rodriguez was never that good, and Kevin Borja was always that good. He just needed the right camp and the right fight to prove it. No, this was a great fight. I mean, you can't take anything away from Kevin Borja. I mean, he went in there and he fought the fight. He needed the fight. He obviously watched Ronaldo Rodriguez's performance at the Sphere, seen the sloppy performance he put up, and he went in there and he just fought the perfect fight to win the fight. Ronaldo Rodriguez, I am serious when I say that. I think the narrative there is that he was never really that good. He kind of sucks. His striking's just a little bit too flamboyant. It doesn't weigh itself out. It's too flamboyant and they're not landing. After a while, the coaches have got to say, "All right, dial this shit back and just get back to the basics." The lead leg kick, the 1-2, maybe a hook, maybe a counter hook or something. Go to the body with a knee or something. Straight to the body. Let's just keep it simple. Maybe a roundhouse to the liver. Something simple. Okay, none of this. He was doing just too much, getting knocked down. And instead of maybe, I don't know, trying to recover a little bit, he does some stupid roll and tries to backflip. Whoa, dude. The aura farming must stop. You got to go out there and you just got to fight the fight. You can't try and be the next MVP. You can't try and be the next Gene Silver. You got to go out there and actually fight the fight and win, like Kevin Borja did. So, shout out to Kevin Borja. The narrative has really switched. It's really turned on its head. Kevin Borja is really that good. He was always that good. He just needed a chance to prove it. And I was giving him shit for being a layup. But look at this guy. He looks a lot more locked in this picture. He doesn't look like a greasy bum. He doesn't look like they just pulled him out of some Peruvian plumber shop. some Peruvian construction site and put him in the octagon with Ronaldo Rodriguez, he looks like a chiseled vet, and he's going to go in there and hopefully get another win under his belt. Okay, we're starting to back Kevin Borja here at Fighting Field Insights. So if you're a fan of the channel, you're a Kevin Borja fan. So the Peruvian native, the Peruvian murderer, some are calling him. David Martinez versus this Simon Oliveira. This, I did obviously pick Oliveira here because I thought he'd just be too crafty. He'd be too crafty, and he'd walk forward with that shootbox style, lifting the lead leg, sticking the jab out there, Ooh, throwing the odd lead knee to the body, keeping him at distance, maybe shoot a takedown. I thought that's what we might see just walking into the fire was from Simon Oliveira, but we didn't see that. We didn't see that at all. He was pushing David Martinez back a little bit, and I was going, wow, like this complete fluke pick is working. And then all of a sudden, David Martinez made his reads, slipped off to the side, pop, 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 and it was over. It was over quicker than it started. And David Martinez, great win, straight off the Contender Series. Get him in there with a little bit of tougher competition. Someone with a bit more of a chin. Someone who's going to get in there and take them big Mexican shots down the middle. Pause. So yeah, cool fight. Cool fight, David Martinez. I'm 0-2 with the Dan White Contender Series picks. So see what next week's card brings. This week's card rather, and yeah. Also due to the Joe Pyfer pullout, this fight got moved upwards from the prelims. So anyway, we'll get that. We'll address that. But for now, we got Raul Rosas Jr. versus Vince Morales. Man, what can I say? I was really hoping Raul Rosas Jr. Jake could get out there and maybe cinch up a submission early. But Vince Morales knew he was fighting. He knew he was preparing for, and he was smart enough to just weather the storm on the ground and hopefully have a good round on the feet. But this is the thing. In round one, Raul Rosas Jr. was cracking him. Raul Rosas Jr. was looking good on the feet. He was throwing some serious, nice, crisp striking, and I would have loved to have seen him stick to it and maybe try and win round one off the feet or knock him out. There was like a bit of a combination that Raul Rosas Jr. threw there early in the round, and it sort of didn't look like it rocked him, but it maybe a little stumble, maybe a little, just a wake-up. And Vince Morales, did a bit of whoop. And, Raul Rosas Jr., I think, could have kept it going on the feet, could have had more success on the feet, and could have probably conserved a lot more energy by fighting that first round on the feet. Similar to a Sean Brady, where he just weathered the storm on the first round on the feet. He played his cards right against Leon, and he just weathered the storm in the first round, conserved a bit of energy, because, sometimes when you just got that pitter-patter sort of on the outside striking, you conserve a bit of energy. So I think Raul Rosas Jr. could have done that. And, he went to the ground. He was on the ground, and his wrestling's just, you can tell it's very jiu-jitsu style based. A lot of freestyle, sort of just, position over submission a lot of the times, which sort of contradicts what I just fucking said there, but that is what it looks like. It's just this mess. It's just like he's sprawling a fuck ton, and he's just like, he's looking for the perfect position, and he's not just working with what he's got. He's not working to create just a good, solid base where he can let off his hands. He's just looking for submissions, and he's just looking to get out of a half-decent spot to get into a better one. But a lot of that is credit to Vince Morales, because he was obviously prepared for Raul Rosas Jr. to have that sort of attack on the ground. Another thing is, too, I just want to say, like, Raul Rosas Jr., man, you kind of got to start switching it up a little bit. You can't have this Hamzat approach every fight where you go in there and you just hope for the love of God, like, these guys aren't ready for your level of grappling. Because we've seen it in the Christian Rodriguez fight. He got fucking fraud checked, dog. He got caught. He got caught bad. He gassed himself out, and I thought he was going to do it here. I thought he was going to gas himself out. Vince Morales, attacking some nasty anaconda chokes, dash chokes. But, no. Yeah, Raul Rosas Jr., good win, but at the same time, like, no, not really. I feel like he could have made a bigger statement, maybe rushed himself in the rankings a bit, but it just wasn't there. It was just a little lackluster, putting on another underwhelming fight, yelling chee-wee-wees on the mic, and then gaining another 1 million followers. So this guy's just got he's got the system. But great average win for Raul Rosas Jr., but good for him. Good for him. I give Chavez versus CJ Figueroa. This was a fight I'll just say I wasn't all that invested in when it was on the prelims. They moved it up to the third feature fight on the main card. Edgar Chavez, I'll admit, it looks like a little Alex Pereira. He got in there and he did his work. Finished the fight. Yeah, baby. Obviously, once again, tipped the wrong way. But Edgar Chavez gets it done early, round 1. I don't have much to say about this fight. It was really just quite a drink break. It was a drink break. I was with my buddy and we sort of just both stopped and caught up on some life chats and we just had a drink and just a couple of sips of water and we went outside and we sat in the sun and heard that this fight was over and we came back inside. So, but shout out to Edgar Chavez. Not much else to say there. This was the highlight of my night. This was the highlight of my night because I put the pick in on Manuel Torres to probably get a submission, maybe take him to the later rounds and win by decision. Submission or decision. Okay? Came out there and cracked it. Okay? He threw the 1-2 combination down the middle straight away and it hit Drew Dober and I was like, wow, I'm surprised that got through on a guy like Drew Dober. Yeah, Drew Dober's a bit reckless, but he's no bum on the feet. That 1-2 slipped straight down the middle and just cracked him. And I was like, wow. Man, Torres, you better go back to that. All of a sudden, bang, bang. Same thing. Boom. And it was brutal, man. Oh, my God. Not as far as flatline, stiff as a board, knockouts go, but the fact that he, got up straight away and, got back into fighting stance and was stumbling and bumbling around, he was, looking at Manuel Torres, come on, let's go. Man, that's sad to watch. That's CTE right there. Man, he got caught bad. And, the stumbling and bumbling around, that was brutal to watch. Yeah, that's hard stuff to watch. On a real one, though, that is some hard stuff to watch when a fighter gets up and protests like that. It's ugly. It is really ugly because it shows you the dark side of the sport. Because that was not good for him, man. And they sat him down on the stool and he's going like this, what happened? Ugly one. But Manuel Torres, congratulations. And that was one of the reasons it was the highlight of my night is because the closer and closer I got to the fight, I just started seeing everyone's picks. Drew Dober, first round knockout. Drew Dober by decision. Drew Dober this, Drew Dober that. I was do you know who you're talking about? What are you talking about? The double, what are you talking about? I'm serious, man. Drew Dober, 36 years age. Yeah, he's a dog. Like I said it in my prediction. Yeah, he's a dog. That's his path to victory was being a dog. But he's 36 and he just hasn't stood out as a guy who can beat young, hungry competitors. You know what I mean? He couldn't turn the table, turn the tides, whatever, on Eugene Silva. And to be honest, I don't really know his fights before that, but Terrence McKinney, got a good vicious knockout on Terrence McKinney, but Terrence McKinney's been flying around for a while. But anyway, all that aside, it was really good to just sort of stick it to the man and say, oh well, look, this is how it is. Manuel Torres wins this fight 99 times out of 100. But yeah, on the main event, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows for Steve Erceg, or should I say Dominic Reyes of the flyweight division. Brutal 3-fight skid. Man, they are feeding this guy to the wolves, and I said it in my breakdown. I said I didn't like this fight from the start. He should have been fighting the Tim Elliott's and the Joshua Vans of the flyweight division. But instead he's in there with Pantoja, and then he's in there with Kai Kara France, and then he's in there with Moreno. These 3 big flyweight names who have been pumping around the flyweight division for years. They never seem to age. They just always seem to just be in prime fighting conditions, going in 5-round fights, or they're knocking out flyweights. And they never seem to age. So someone needs to look into that. But anyway, Steve Erceg got caught on the bad side of this one. Fought terribly in the first. Just got battered. Was behind the punch every time. Was obviously taking him it was going to take him that round to get the reads right, which is, I think, sort of similar to what we've seen in the Kai Kara France fight. I think what I'm starting to see from a Steve Erceg is obviously he's a counter-based striker. He's very good with his counter-striking. So it takes him around. It takes him around to get the reads and stuff right, even 2 rounds. It takes him around to get the reads going and set the distance and get all of his gears in motion. And then he starts rolling. So a 5-round fight's perfect for a Steve Erceg. But that's on paper. That's completely on paper. So, he loses the first round, gets battered, just eating big shots, almost gets dropped. Round 2 comes in there. Different story, man. Different story from Stevie Erceg. Presses the pace, gets in Brendan Moreno's face, sets a good distance, but he's just heavy on the combinations. The striking was just a lot slicker. He was blocking a lot of them big looping rights that were coming from Brendan Moreno, or he was slipping them. He was reading everything. He was like now in the Matrix in there. And then you think, fuck, well, this fight's going to get really close. It's going to get close down the straight. Then round 3 starts, and then Steve Erceg finds a reasonable distance, and then he just shits the bed. That high intensity, lots of combos, getting in Moreno's face, sort of offsetting Moreno's rhythm. All of that goes out the window. And don't get me wrong, I am probably taken away from Brendan Moreno here. He was probably doing things that was making Steve Erceg uncomfortable in there. And then that was affecting Erceg's ability to be able to set that round 2 pace. But it just looked like he just died. He was dead in the water. And rounds 3 through to 5 looked very similar to me. It seemed like he let his foot off the gas, and he was trying to wait on shots too much. And even then, he just wasn't seeing the holes in Moreno's game, and they were right there for him to see. And his coaches said that, and he said that. He said he could see him. His coaches said that he could see him. But then he'd get up and he just wouldn't do anything. He'd heavy on the jab. He'd throw the old low leg kick that just looked pissy as, and then he might rip a combo while Moreno had a full guard up, and the punches were just rolling off Moreno's guard. So yeah, man, he brought the loss on himself a little bit there. He sort of just died in the water. And it sucks, man, because I always backed the roughie. And I honestly thought Steve Erceg might have had a decent chance against Brendan Moreno because he doesn't have that level of grappling that Pantoja has. And then, I thought, Steve Erceg, man, was having big moments in that championship fight because of the striking. I thought, well, Moreno, don't get me wrong, he's no bum on the feet. But Erceg, on paper, from what we've seen, he's really good. And he still had moments in that fight where I was like, I still think he's a good striker. But he lacks a little bit of fight IQ, maybe. Lacks a little bit of urgency, maybe. Lacks a little bit of grit. I think there's grit there. I think there's toughness there. We've seen that. We've seen his ability to eat big shots and just not get discouraged. Because he ate all them big shots in the first and he could have just sat on his hands and went, I'm kind of beat here. But he came in the second and put up a good fight. So, what are you going to do, man? 3-fight skid. We could just hope they give him a Tim Elliott or a Joshua Van or something. That's all we can hope for,
Look, I don't really think I won the fight. I know I lost round 1, but I knew round 2 was mine, and I really thought that round 3 was a closer fight than what the closer round than what the judges gave it credit to.
You gave up on yourself in there, Stevie boy. I love Steve Erceg, the aura boy himself, but man, he just seemed like he quit on himself. He could have got so much more active. I'm not a professional athlete, so I don't know what's going through his head in there. Obviously, he's on the big stage. He's in Mexico. He's in front of a foreign crowd. And some things just don't... The puzzle pieces don't all fit together sometimes. And he couldn't quite get his game rolling. But, I think that's the only thing that's holding Steve Erceg back. Is it's the striking. Not the striking, sorry. It might be the little bit of the mental game. Sorry, I went blank there for a second. But I think it's the mental game. I think it's just like... I think he might get in his own head a little bit. I think Steve Erceg's biggest enemy is Steve Erceg. Not to get deep. Not to get deep on you right now on this main card breakdown, but I think Steve Erceg's biggest enemy is Steve Erceg. And once Steve Erceg can win that 5-round title fight against himself, then we'll definitely see him in here beating guys like Brandon Moreno, because he shows that he has the grit, he has the size, he has the power, and he has the striking, and he has all of it. He's a well-rounded fighter. He's got the cardio, right? He's got the sprawls. And once he can really tackle that mental game, I think he's in there. I think he's in there winning bigger fights. But until then, man, he's got a journey ahead of him. He's got a journey ahead of him, and I hate to get the sense, and I hate to sort of say it, but man, he is that Dominic Reyes kind of guy. They put him in a spot early on in his career that maybe he wasn't ready for. We all said he wasn't ready for, and he gets beat, and then he gets beat again, and then he gets beat again. I mean, the only fight that I really seen being on his level at this point was the Kai Kara France fight, and he just, yeah. And that can't help with the mental game behind Steve Erceg. You know, he's got to be thinking about that whenever he gets in there. But anyway, yeah, average card. You know, Mexico, it did turn up. I will admit, it did show up. But also, I'm just a little bit taken away with the couple of the results. And then the Joe Pyfer and Kelvin Gastelum pullout, man. I don't even know if I want to spend too much time on that because, you know, what are you to say? Joe Pyfer, injured. Not injured, sorry, some sort of illness, it said. I'm not too clear on what that is, but illness usually means he was afraid of missing weight with KG. So he was afraid of getting weight bullied. But yeah. Which is upsetting because I was excited to see Joe Pyfer in there. We haven't seen him in the octagon for a while. But that's it. You know, we got down on a few, but out of the 12 fights on the card, we got up on 5. We lost these 2. We came through on the Ralph Garcia, came through on Lupe Godinez, came through on the Costa one. We underestimated the middleweight Francis Ngannou. You know, sadly underestimated Kevin Borja. Never happened again. Didn't know enough about David Martinez. Raul Rosas Jr. was a lock. We would have liked to have been a better fight. We were down on this one. Got up on Manuel Torres and we lost the main event. So it is what it is, but that's the fight game. So not much else to be said, but yeah. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week for another.